Welcome back. This is Tucker. Let's talk weather. Today we're taking a look at the tropics as they begin to show some signs of life. And we're also taking a look at temperatures because summer heat is making a big return in the near future. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you all here again, and hope you've enjoyed what has been a beautiful start to August. Unless you're a fan of the big time heat, then it's been a little disappointing. But regardless, it is going to get warm again, and our weather is getting noticeably more active, which you can already tell just looking beside me here. A couple things to point out as we start the video. Take a look at this stuff up here. It looks like cloud cover, but that's actually wildfire smoke from some big time fires in Canada. That's going to be sweeping through the Northeast as we start the week. And our next tropical system likely to become a tropical storm right there, right off the East Coast. We'll talk about tropical weather impacts and also this heat, of course, as it begins to return. There's a lot of hype around tropical weather because it's cool, I guess. But this is legitimate. The tropics are beginning to wake up. Doesn't mean there's any big imminent threats, but let's talk about what's coming up here. And what you're looking at is the next 7 days, the likelihood that a tropical system gets named or, becomes a tropical storm, that means. And you can see we have this area here off the, East Coast. 70% chance, in fact, and this is in the next 2 days, they believe it would likely form into a tropical storm. We'll talk about the path of that in a minute. I also want to talk about this guy off the East Coast in the next week. Low chance something develops, but it'll at least be, a bit of a weather maker on the coastline. Could create some waves. And then this is a much higher potential system out here over the Atlantic. It's likely to stay out over the Atlantic, but there is some potential for this to become more than just a tropical storm as we look later at this week. So let's take a look now. Starting with a look at the entire Atlantic over the next few days, more specifically our system right off the East Coast here. You're going to see it meander off the East Coast for a bit, and because it's the most imminent, we'll focus on this to start. But it's never really going to come close to landfall. You can see even as we move into the 7th and 8th, it's just sort of sitting out off these waters. So the greatest impact this is likely to have is it's going to create some waves along the eastern coastline. It may increase the rip current risk, but this one largely not going to impact the land. Now, a lot of people are going to show you a model like that, and it's going to change every single day. So I'm showing you on ensemble, and this ensemble gives us the range of possibilities for many of our storms. It's honestly the better way to forecast. So here's our system off the coastline there. You can see each one of those red numbers indicates where the core of it may be. And because they're all offshore, again, I'm not too worried about any kind of landfall. That system that could develop off the East Coast but doesn't look like it has much of a chance, that's what those red numbers you're seeing right there are. And then our bigger system that may become a hurricane eventually is that cluster of numbers there. We're looking at the 7th and 8th now, and as I continue to move this forward, you're seeing, again, that system that is trying to become a hurricane. We have a very wide range of outcomes. That tells us there's low forecast certainty, but each one of those numbers does indicate that, the system has a chance to become reasonably strong. Now, from here, we got to watch because, you wonder, does it have any chance to impact the East Coast? And you'll see that almost everything recurves one way or another and goes back out to sea. There is one solution, though, that takes it a little bit closer to the U.S. here. It's unlikely because, while there are some outcomes, it just seems pretty unlikely. But that would be our greatest risk for any kind of impact between now and about August, 14th, 15th. Previously, I was watching this area down here for development. Not much hints at that now, and that suggests that the tropics are generally pretty quiet, but as you can tell, there is at least some possibility for development out there, and it does indicate the broader trend that as we get deeper into hurricane season, of course, we are going to be favoring more development of storms, and I'm sure things are going to become more active this month, and especially in the coming weeks. By the way, if you're not already subscribed, consider doing so. I'm a meteorologist. You'll always get real weather info here, information you can trust. And if you have any questions, I always answer all you guys in the comments. Now to our jet stream here. It's a pretty cool thing. You ever heard of it? Yeah, you probably heard of it if you watched at least one of my videos. We love talking about it because it's such a big indicator in our weather. And what we're looking at here is a pretty quiet jet stream. You got a little bit of wind energy here. That's actually owing to some storms in the Rocky Mountains, but otherwise, it's quiet. That's not a bad thing. But it's about to change. And if I move this forward into the 5th, into the 6th, and especially as we get towards the 7th and 8th, we're beginning to see, first of all, this bubble build. That's going to be the seed for our next big time warm-up. But we also have this wind energy spreading out more across the northern U.S., and I believe that's going to owe to some more severe weather threats, especially across the north central U.S., and especially as we move into, again, the 7th, the 8th, and 9th, sort of the beginning of the second week of August. And that's where a lot of our changes begin to take place. Moving this through the second week of August, I know we're looking at a little ways out here, but what I'm seeing right now is actually a pretty good signal for severe weather. Maybe I should have titled this headline something about severe storms, but that's our low pressure system up there, our cooler air mass. Our jet making this kind of move here suggests that the threat for severe weather in the second week of August, even towards the 10th to 14th, is going to end up being centered somewhere out here. It could be more so in the northeast. And as I move this forward, whenever you get that kind of dip in the jet stream with those brighter colors, that wind energy, tells you have a good amount of power out there for some severe weather. Now on the back side of this, you didn't move that too much. You kind of see where we are. On the back side of this, there we go. You can see the higher pressure system bringing the heat. It expands more. And as this dip in the jet stream begins to move farther offshore, this is going to continue to expand to the east. And that warm air mass is really going to engulf a big chunk of the country here. And heat will be back on. A little easier to visualize here is our air masses relative to average. You can see a lot of the blues out across the country right now, but as I move this into the second week of August, you see more of those oranges take hold, and that tells us that the air mass relative to normal is quite warm. And we're looking here again, the second week of August, that's a much warmer U.S. until this potential cold front tries to come in, but even so, into the middle of August, we're looking at a generally pretty warm country, and you probably saw that heat. It does move from west to east as we transition into the second week, and again, heat is certainly coming back. Naturally, I'm sure you probably want to see actual temperatures here, so here they are. We're going to move this forward pretty quickly, but Monday highs, you can see hundreds, but they're contained to the mountains in the southwest and in Texas. We'll move this forward because, again, it's going to stay kind of cool to begin the week, unless you're on the lee side of the Rockies. You get some hundreds that may show up in Denver as that downsloping becomes strong. 110s in the Phoenix, Arizona area. Hot out there, of course. But as we move into Wednesday, you're seeing that heat begin to spread out across more of the U.S. You got 90s out into the Kansas City area, even into Iowa. Moving this into your Thursday, you got high temperatures, again, really beginning to spread out here. So this is the heat starting to return. Those are some hundreds showing up outside of Texas out here. And I mean, it's still, it could be close to 120 in parts of the desert Southwest. That is really hot. Friday, we got high temperatures that continue to spread out farther to the north and east. And as we move this continually into the upcoming weekend, you see the heat spreading out and now really getting into the northeast too. A little bit of a cold front tries to come in here. It may cool off the northern Midwest, but you can still see hundreds out here on the west coast. And you got 90s and hundreds really spreading out now, trying to make a return to even the northeast as we get into the start of next week. So we're looking a ways out here. And that heat is going to settle in, as you can see, through much of the second week of August, just looking at these temperatures. And that's what I expect we're going to be dealing with as we move through the middle of August. So enjoy this cool down while it's here, because clearly it's not going to last very long. And I couldn't forget to mention severe weather and fire weather, both threats this week. Severe weather mainly being kept to the north central U.S. Monday and Tuesday here. Severe weather is not the largest threat, but there could be a chance for storms out there. And then as we were talking about, looking towards Thursday and Friday and Saturday and even Sunday, even though the signal's not strong yet, you have that wave that comes through and may bring severe storms to the northern tier of the U.S. So no big threats, and most of them are on the horizon, but we're certainly going to be keeping an eye on that, especially in our next video that we come out with. Also, fire weather out here in the Rocky Mountains, pretty wide area at risk on Monday. Also, if you haven't seen my video on dry thunderstorms, that's also a threat, something cool to learn about. But even beyond that, here on Tuesday, many of the same locations at risk. And you can see this not just Tuesday, but Wednesday, Thursday as well. That threat continues into Friday and then eventually Saturday. The predictability a little bit lower. But this entire week, the Rocky Mountains area, something to note as temperatures rise out there a lot and the potential for dry thunderstorms exists throughout the week. All right, we'll wrap it up there. I'll see you guys back here in 2 days. Tuesday's our next update, and I want to make sure you stay safe and enjoy this cool weather while it lasts. Summer's on its way back, and of course, if you have any questions or you haven't subscribed, be sure to do so and drop them right here. I'll see you next time.